right, hey gang, hang tight. Here we go. Two Dragons and a Cheetah, and the song was Poetry and Light. And I'm in the booth now with Maryjo Mattea, and now it's time to talk to her. And let's find out more about Maryjo Mattea. If you're interested in actually seeing her, I also have her too. We're on Facebook Live right now. This video is recorded. It'll be up there later. So if you want to check her out, I've got her live as well. So check that out. And Maryjo, thanks so much for being on the show and for bringing this great music with you and all of your great music with you. So let's talk about you for a bit. So start by telling us your story. How did you get into this? How did you end up in 4 groups? And how did all this start? Talk to us.
So, I mean, depends on how far back you want to go. I've been writing songs since I was like 13 or 14 years old.
Let's start with the DC part. You came to Washington, D.C. Start from there, yeah.
I came to Washington, D.C. and I was actually, before I moved here, I was in this punk rock band in Lancaster, Pennsylvania called X Education. And I moved to DC for work, and I was sad to leave them, so I was really eager to get into music, and I jumped right in with a few folks, and we started playing for a little while. And I actually met Joel Wu at work. He and I used to work together at the Institute of Medicine, and found out that we were each musical in our own right, and I said to him, Joel, I want to make music with you. And that is not
words every guy might dream to hear. I don't know.
That's not a euphemism. I literally want to make music with you, and so that got started at that point. And
no, which group is Joel?
Oh, that's Two Dragons and a Cheetah.
Okay, got it.
Two Dragons and a Cheetah, and then, like I mentioned before, Two Dragons and a Cheetah had played shows with the Silver Liners and Dance for the Dying, and those two bands no longer exist, but the members of those two bands came together and formed a band called Color Palette.
Wow.
And through their experience having played with Two Dragons and a Cheetah, they knew me, and I'm a lucky girl because they asked me to join their crew.
Wow, cool.
And all the while I had been sort of doing my own random pop rock music on the side and recording that separately and releasing it separately. And so Joel is currently on his own little personal world tour.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
I had an opportunity while he's away to assemble a pile of dudes, and they now play some of that other like solo pop rock music with me.
Oh, so like that first song, Rocket Science, and like that stuff. They play that with you.
They play the pop rock with me, and they're a fun group too.
Wow. And wait a minute, and there's another one as well?
Oh, yes. The other one is a Beatles Tribute Act. We play nothing but Beatles music because I am a huge Beatle maniac. And
awesome.
that group is called Dr. Robert and Penny Lane, which are, as I don't know if you know, but they're both different Beatles songs. Dr. Robert is a Beatles song, Penny Lane's a Beatles song.
Oh, okay. Wow, how appropriate. Okay, so Dr. Robert and Penny Lane, which means you must be playing music every night and every morning, and the rehearsal schedule, what's it like? We just listed 4 groups.
Right.
But what's your schedule like with all of that?
I think it depends on the gig calendar. You know,
okay.
The heavier the gig calendar, the heavier the rehearsal calendar.
Uh-huh.
So it really, it ebbs and flows.
Okay.
I have to go to rehearsal after this show, actually, with a pile of dudes.
Well, thanks for being here for this part.
Absolutely.
Wow, okay. And now how does it, and there's other stuff that you do too. So tell us about, aside from music, what's the other fun stuff that you're into here?
You mean like my day job, the thing that pays my rent?
yeah. There's one of those too. Yeah, you do have to pay the rent. So briefly, what's the day job? And then I know you teach Zumba. Tell them about that too.
Okay, so I work as a researcher and evaluator for a nonprofit that we do work that is supposed to help children and families. I don't know if I'm supposed to say the name of the organization. I should. It's called Child Trends. It's a great organization. And we do research and evaluation of social programs for youth. And then the Zumba thing is just, that's a really random hobby of mine. And I just liked it.
How did that start?
I liked it so much that I decided I wanted to get paid to do it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I went and got my license or whatever, and now I get paid to do it.
That's amazing. And how many times a week is that?
I just teach once a week. I couldn't
Once a week.
possibly fit in more than that.
Yeah. Wow.
There are only so many days in the week.
Right, and so many hours in a day. My goodness. So, talk to us about the proudest or coolest moments as a musician since you've been in DC. What comes to mind when I ask you that?
Oh, since I've been in DC, I was thinking about something that happened before I came to DC. Can I share that?
Tell us that one too. Okay, I'm on board.
My coolest music memory to date has to have been I opened for the Misfits.
Wow.
With my punk band in Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow.
And that was just truly surreal. And it's really it's one of those fun facts. Did you know Maryjo opened for the Misfits? That's a true story. Yeah, and in DC, that's a hard one because I've really had a lot of great moments. I'd say most recently it would have been at the release show for 4 Minute Symphonies because you were there, and all of my other friends who were in DC bands were there, and including some of my bandmates were there.
Awesome.
It was just a really fun night, and I felt very loved and supported. So that was a good memory.
Absolutely. I remember dancing and singing my butt off at that show. That was awesome. And now tell us about lessons you've learned. What are some of the lessons you picked up over the years?
Lessons that I've learned as far as music goes, or just life lessons?
Let's start with music, and then if
yeah.
you feel so inclined, we'll go life. But let's talk about music.
Music lessons. I would say the biggest lesson that I've learned is to sort of let go of that notion that there is a single avenue or outlet to suggest that you've made it. And I think, once you let go of that, you are opened up and you have some more freedom and just sort of emotional bandwidth to do more and to do the sorts of things you want to do and not be concerned about what's going to be cool or what's going to get me more likes on Facebook or anything like that. It's just more about being true to yourself, I suppose. I think Joel Woo helped me learn that lesson, to be honest.
Good old Joel.
Good old Joel.
Now, so then what is it you said you've made it? Mm-hmm. What is it for you? What do you consider making it then? If you're not worried about that.
I think
why do you do it?
It's definitely a subjective measure. It's definitely something that you have to decide for yourself. And it's different for everybody because this is actually, despite the fact that I'm in 4 different groups, this is not my full-time job, nor do I want it to be my sole pursuit. So making it for me is probably very different than some other artists. And for me, making it is really just, do I actually record and perform music that I'm proud of?
Wow.
And the answer to that is yes. So I'd say I've made it.
My God, and you've made it several times over at this point. You just keep making it. That's wow. And that's a really I'm gonna remember that and take that one to heart too, because that's a great way to set yourself up for success by looking at it that way. I really appreciate that. So you're in 4 groups now. What's the future look like for Maryjo? Where do you have aspirations for this? You're not trying to quote make it. So what's the future look like for Maryjo?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. The future absolutely does not contain a 5th band.
So if you're interested in trying to pick her up and you're listening, sorry guys, she's limited to 4.
I'm gonna
That's
stick
good
to
to know.
4. I don't think I could feasibly do anything more than that and still sleep.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
But what it does hold is Color Palette is making new music, and I'm fortunate to be a part of that.
Wow.
And I personally am always sort of working on my stuff. And then whenever Joel makes it back to this country, Two Dragons and Sheeta will have a resurgence, and we'll get to play a few shows. That'll be fun. Dr. Robert and Penny Lane is pretty much sort of gigging from now until whenever we stop being able to play Beatles songs, because we just really
Wow.
enjoy doing that, and people don't seem to get sick of it. So
Do you guys rehearse for that one, or do you all know the songs so well that you just show up and play them?
yeah, we generally don't rehearse at this point. We've been doing this for about 3 years, and
wow.
so
Okay.
I'd say if ever we want to add new songs to the song list, which is over 80 songs long at this point, but if we ever want to add new songs to it, we do get together like once every couple of months and say, okay, let's bang out these like 5 or 6 that we've had requested at shows and that we magically didn't know.
Wow. Okay. Gotcha. And how do you find when you're looking around at DC bands, and I've seen you at a lot of shows for other bands as well, and there's a lot of friends, but when you're looking for music, how do you come across your music?
My music, how do I come across that? I mean, just going to as many shows as is possible, and you're a musician, so you also know that it's difficult to go see other bands because you're often playing your own shows.
Right. Oh God, yeah.
I don't know how many Fellow Craft shows that I've missed because I've been at my own shows and just, and I feel
it's
so
quid pro quo
terrible
here.
each time,
Same way. There's a Maryjo show, and you're playing at one place, and I can't make it because I'm playing at another one.
We might very well be within a mile of one another, and we just we can't do it. So that it makes it challenging. But when I do have the availability, I do just kind of like to go see shows, and it's often based around going to see my friends' shows, but the truth is that they put together bills with bands that I'm not always familiar with, and so I'm sort of like through all those several degrees of separation finding new music. And Facebook helps because your friends are always sort of sharing each other's stuff and going, oh, listen to my friend's band, it's really cool, and then suddenly, yeah, that is actually really cool, I'm gonna add that to my playlist.
Yeah. It's amazing how you come across it. Social media has been great for that, I guess. So, last question that I like to ask all of the guests is, I just would love your if you could offer one piece of advice to DC musicians and to DC music fans, what would that be?
Advice that I would offer to DC musicians is probably similar to that lessons learned question you asked me, which is to sort of let go of other people's standards of success and to embrace your own subjective measure of what success means. And to fans, it would be to just consume as much music as you possibly can, whether that be by purchasing albums on Bandcamp or by going to shows. I mean, that's really the best advice that you can give, I suppose.
Right, going to shows and showing your support. And I love what you said about going to your friends' shows. If you know a couple of bands, they inevitably are going to play with some other great bands, and then you'll stumble across some stuff there too.
I have a lot of friends that will ask me about like how do I find live music? Like some people just genuinely like don't know. It's not something that they grew up doing or like never got into. And so
I'm one of those
kids.
I didn't know either.
You just didn't know, and sometimes you just have to say, okay, so there's this bar, Acre 121, and they have bands there every weekend. Check out their schedule, or go to Brightest Young Things. They have a show calendar. Just pick something you like and go. And a lot of it is actually free of charge. So, dip your toe in the water.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much, Maryjo. And one of the things that I always challenge my guests with is to bring music from other DC artists that they like. And I know you brought us a couple of tracks. So why don't you tell us you said something about Wanted Man. Tell us about Wanted Man in this next track you've got for us.
So Wanted Man, I had already been familiar with. I'd seen them play once or twice before. And then recently on the Hometown Sounds podcast, they featured a track off their new album, and it just rocked so hard and it blew my mind that the minute I got home that day, I downloaded it on Bandcamp. I purchased it. And so the song that I brought to you today is actually, it's not the song that was on Hometown Sounds that still rocked my world. It's a different song, but I loved it as well. So.
All right, so what is it called?
This song is called Desiree.
Awesome. Facebook Live, you rock. Thanks for tuning in. with Maryjo. Thanks, Maryjo, for being here with us. See you guys next time.